The condition for the unambiguity of universal philosophical concepts, as the very concept of truth, is created in a preconceived notion of language, understanding language as a fixed, authentic mirror of reality, in connection with the theory of correspondence, so that the relationship between the intellect and an object in full scale can be described as a relationship between language and reality, or as the early Wittgenstein described this relationship. By the way, the theory of correspondence we analyzed more in detail in our previous series called Practical Philosophy. But back to early Wittgenstein. The proposition is a picture of reality, and propositions can be true or false only by being pictures of the reality. So the ontological potential of language is thus exhausted by the sum of possible truths. The later Wittgenstein, however, subsequently radically reconsidered the very possibility of unambiguous objectivity of words. The idea that in order to get clear about the meaning of a general term, one had to find the common element in all its applications has shackled philosophical investigation. For it has not only led to no result, but also made the philosopher dismiss as irrelevant the concrete cases which alone could have helped him to understand the usage of the general term in question. So how can one imagine, however, any kind of objective correspondence when the language itself is embedded in the reality, and when, as Gadamer noticed, before any philosophically aimed critical thought, the world is for us already the world interpreted in language? Where does the criterion come from, and how can it be formulated that language would form its own correlation in relation to reality, while such a very criterion would retain a linguistic form? The meaning of the words themselves, as cells of the language, is also not defined in itself. There is a contradiction in the very formulation of the question of the first word. The meaning of a single word is always based on a whole system of words. Indeed, a word receives its meaning only in connection with all other words in the inseparable context of the language, in which everything is ultimately defined in relation to the integrality that forms the given linguistic reality, which, like a spider web, consists solely of interconnected threads. Or, as Donald-Davidson expressed it, Frege said that only in the context of a sentence does a word have meaning. In the same way, he might have added that only in the context of language does a sentence, and therefore a word, have meaning. And a similar idea was also expressed by later Wittgenstein. The mistake we are liable to make could be expressed thus: we are looking for the use of a sign, but we look for it as though it were an object coexisting with the sign. One of the reasons for this mistake is again that we are looking for a thing corresponding to a substance. The sign or the sentence gets its significance from the system of signs, from the language to which it belongs. So roughly, understanding a sentence means understanding a language.